and welcome to Learn English Lab. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something I think everyone, and I mean everyone, has experienced.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We're talking about advanced English listening practice, and our topic is why your ears miss words and how to fix it. You know that exact moment, right? You're in a conversation, you're nodding along, smiling.
Yeah.
But inside, you are just scrambling.
You're completely lost. You caught maybe 3 words and you're trying to build a whole sentence out of them.
Exactly. So if you find yourself constantly saying, sorry, what was that? Or could you repeat that, please? Whether it's in a fast-paced meeting at work or just trying to chat with a friend in a loud cafe, this deep dive is absolutely for you. We've looked at all the material, and here's the main idea we're going to explore. Most of the time, this isn't a problem with your ears. It's not, actual hearing loss.
Right.
It's a challenge with how your brain is handling the sound. It's a really complex thing called auditory processing.
And what's so fascinating here, I think, is that understanding speech. It's like a delicate, multi-step neural symphony. It relies on both, the physics of sound and this incredibly complex brain architecture.
So today, our mission is to basically arm you with the knowledge to reclaim those words that just seem to vanish.
We want to give you agency over your communication. You're not just destined to miss words. You just need the right mental toolkit.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Before we dive into the glitches, the processing problems, I think we should take a second to appreciate the sheer physical marvel of the human ear.
It's an evolutionary masterpiece, truly. It's built to detect these microscopic vibrations in the air and then translate them into a language the brain can actually understand.
And we can break it down into 3 main zones, right? The first is the outer ear. That's the part you can see, the pinna, and then the ear canal.
And its job is beautifully simple. It's like a natural satellite dish or a funnel. It just collects sound waves, maybe amplifies certain frequencies a little, and channels them inward.
It's the collection system.
Exactly. Then you get to the middle ear, which is it's the mechanical amplifier. Behind your eardrum, there's this little air-filled space with 3 tiny, tiny bones, the ossicles.
And we don't need to memorize the names, right? Malleus and ficus, stapes.
No, let's just focus on what they do. They form this really sophisticated lever system. And this is critical because sound is moving from the air in the middle ear into fluid in the inner ear.
And fluid is much denser.
Way denser.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot more force to get it to move. These little bones, they basically concentrate all the big, weak vibrations from the eardrum onto a much smaller spot, the entrance to the inner ear.
So it's like focusing a magnifying glass, but for force.
That's a great way to put it. If that system wasn't there, something like 97% of the sound energy would just bounce off. The middle ear makes sure the signal has enough punch to get to the next stage.
Which brings us to the inner ear. This is where the real magic happens, right? The conversion.
This is the cochlea. It's fluid-filled, looks a bit like a snail shell. And inside, it's lined with thousands of microscopic hair cells.
And when the vibrations arrive, the fluid moves and it bends these little hairs.
Exactly. And that bending motion is the critical moment. That is where mechanical energy, the vibration, gets turned into neurological information, electrical signals.
Wow. And different parts of the cochlea handle different pitches.
Yep. It's a perfect map. High frequencies at one end, low frequencies at the other. So the sound is already organized by pitch before it even leaves the ear. It's incredible.
And from there, the signals just race up the auditory nerve.
Right. Think of it like a superhighway, not a single wire. It's carrying this massive amount of structured data up to the brain's command center for sound, the auditory cortex.
And this is where things get really complicated.
And really fast. I mean, we're talking milliseconds. The cortex has to figure out, what is this sound? Is it speech? Is it a car? Where's it coming from? In front of me. Behind me.
And then the most important part, what does it mean?
Right. It attaches meaning to the patterns. And it does all of that in less time than it takes you to blink. It's mind-blowing.
But that speed is also its weakness, I guess. If anything slows it down or complicates the signal, the whole system can start to break down.
That's the vulnerability. The whole thing is built for speed and efficiency. And when that's challenged, words start to vanish.
So if the physical parts, the ear itself, are working perfectly, then the problem has to be in what you called the audio engineering phase, the auditory processing.
The brain's part of the job.
And when the brain gets that raw signal, it has to perform, 5 key tasks to make sense of it all?
Yeah, 5 core non-negotiable tasks. If any one of them fails, you're going to miss something. The first is discrimination.
So telling sounds apart.
Exactly. The fine-grained skill of hearing the subtle difference between, say, cat and bat, or goat and coat. If your brain muddles those tiny phonemes, the whole meaning can change.
Okay, what's next?
Then there's localization, pinpointing where a sound is coming from. Seems simple, but it's essential for knowing where to focus your attention.
Which you need for filtering out other stuff.
Precisely. Third is sequence. Your brain has to keep the order of sounds and words correct. The dog bit the man is very different from
The man bit the dog.
exactly. Word order is meaning. If that gets scrambled, you're lost.
And you said the last two are where most of the problems happen.
I think so, yeah. The fourth is filtering. It's often called auditory figure ground processing.
So separating the important voice, the figure, from the background noise.
That's it. If this fails, every sound hits your brain of equal importance, and it's just chaos.
And the last one is memory.
Specifically, auditory working memory. You have to be able to hold the beginning of a sentence in your mind while the speaker is getting to the end of it.
Like a mental scratch pad.
Perfect analogy. If that scratch pad is too small or gets erased too quickly, the start of the sentence is gone before the end arrives. You don't know what they're talking about because you literally forgot the subject of the sentence.
So when we feel like we missed a word, it's often one of these 5 steps in the brain failing, not the eardrum.
9 times out of 10, yes.
Which brings us to a really important distinction. There isn't just one reason for this.
No, we need to separate 3 very different kinds of failure. First, you have actual hearing loss. That's a physical problem with the ear. The input signal is weaker or distorted. Think of it like a broken microphone cable.
The sound isn't getting to the brain clearly in the first place.
Right. Then second, you have something called Central Auditory Processing Disorder, or CAPD.
And this one is different.
Very. This is a diagnosed neurological condition. The ears work perfectly, the microphone is fine, but the brain itself struggles with those 5 tasks we just talked about. The internal software is buggy.
Okay, so that's a specific medical condition. But what about the rest of us? The everyday frustrations.
That's the third bucket, and it's the biggest one. Situational auditory challenges.
Meaning the brain is capable, but it's just temporarily overwhelmed.
That's it, exactly. You're a skilled audio engineer, but the studio is way too noisy, or you've been working for 18 hours straight, or someone is asking you to mix 5 songs at once. Your brain is fine, the situation's the problem.
And understanding that difference is really empowering because you can't fix the IPD on your own, but you can absolutely change the situation.
You can. You can control the environment, and you can learn strategies to manage the overload. That's what we're going to get into.
All right, so let's dive deep into the specific reasons your brain's processing breaks down. We'll start with the external stuff, the acoustic challenges.
The environment is so often the silent saboteur here. And the number one culprit is just background noise.
Right.
The science here is something called auditory masking. This is when competing sounds literally cover up or hide parts of the speech you're trying to hear.
Especially the important parts, right? The consonants.
Exactly. And this all comes down to something called the signal-to-noise ratio, or SNR.
Okay, break that down for us.
It's just a volume difference between the speech you want to hear, the signal, and all the other junk, the noise. For you to listen easily, the speech needs to be at least 6 decibels louder than the noise.
Only 6? That doesn't sound like much.
It's the minimum. Ideally, for learning, you want more like 12. But in a typical busy office or a restaurant, you're lucky if you're getting 1 or 2 decibels. Your brain is straining like crazy to fill in the gaps.
And that's where the consonants get lost. The S and T and F sounds.
They're the first to go. They are very high frequency and have very little energy compared to vowels. So if someone says we need 3 tasks done in a noisy room, that quiet little T sound gets completely masked.
And your brain hears, we need 3 asks done.
You have no idea what they mean. That's the coffee shop problem in a nutshell. The hiss of the espresso machine is in that same high frequency range,
Yeah.
and it just wipes out all the clarity.
But it's not just about noise volume. There's also echo, right? Reverberation.
Oh, absolutely. Reverberation is when sound bounces off hard surfaces, bare walls, glass ceilings, tile floors. It creates a smearing effect.
What do you mean by smearing?
The sound of one syllable lingers in the air and overlaps with the beginning of the next one. So a simple phrase like "buy now" becomes a jumbled mess, where the "buy" is still echoing when they say "now."
The brain can't tell where one word ends and the next begins.
It's impossible. They have to use so much energy just trying to figure out the timing. That's why talking in a big empty convention hall is so much harder than in a carpeted office. The carpet absorbs the sound, the marble reflects it.
And of course, there's just plain old physics, distance and volume.
The inverse square law. Sound intensity drops off fast. It falls by about 6 decibels every time you double your distance from the speaker.
So if someone is shouting at you from across a busy street,
Not only is their voice weaker because of the distance, but it's also now buried under the noise of the traffic. The signal is weak and the noise is strong. Your brain has almost nothing to work with.
and sometimes the problem isn't the room, it's the speaker themselves.
We can't let them off the hook. Unclear or rapid speech is a huge factor.
The fast talker.
The fast talker is a nightmare for the brain's processing speed. Your auditory cortex literally can't keep up. It's still trying to figure out the meaning of word 5 when word 10 has already flown by.
And what about the opposite, the mumbler?
The mumbler's just as bad. They swallow their consonants, they blur their vowels. The signal they are producing is already degraded. It's like listening to a radio station with terrible reception.
So you get just see the cat instead of did you see the cat?
Precisely. The signal is corrupted at the source.
Yeah.
And when you combine a fast talker who also mumbles, well, it's a perfect storm for communication failure.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because you can have a perfect room, a perfect speaker, and still miss everything. The problem can be entirely internal.
The brain's bandwidth problem. Cognitive overload.
Let's start with the big one, divided attention, multitasking.
We have to be clear about this. Listening isn't passive. It is an active, resource-heavy process. And your brain doesn't truly multitask.
It just switches back and forth really fast.
Exactly, it task switches. And every switch has a cognitive cost. The classic example is scrolling on your phone while someone is talking to you.
We've all done it.
Of course. But what's happening is that a huge chunk of your brain's processing power is being used to interpret the visuals on the screen, make decisions about what you're seeing, and that leaves only fragments of bandwidth for the conversation.
So you physically hear the words.
But you don't process them for meaning. It's a deliberate misallocation of your brain's limited resources.
And those resources run out, which brings us to fatigue and stress.
Absolutely. High-level brain functions like listening comprehension are like muscles. They get tired. When you're exhausted, your neural networks literally slow down.
And stress makes it even worse.
Much worse. Stress releases cortisol, which can actually impact parts of the brain that are crucial for memory and learning. So think about that meeting at the end of a long, stressful day.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Your brain is just depleted. You hear the words coming in, but the effort it takes to link them together into a coherent thought feels monumental. You start missing things because you just don't have the mental energy to keep up.
This ties right into working memory limitations, doesn't it?
Directly. That mental scratch pad we talked about has a finite capacity. And when you're tired or stressed, that capacity shrinks.
So if someone gives you a long, complex set of instructions,
It's a recipe for disaster. Imagine your manager says, okay, first, file the report, but only after you cross-reference it with the sales data, unless it's a holiday week, in which case you need to get approval first.
by the time they get to the approval part, I've already forgotten the part about the sales data.
That's it. The beginning of the instruction has literally decayed from your working memory before the end has arrived. It's not that you didn't hear it, it's that you couldn't hold on to it.
And finally, there's just pure information overload. Too much jargon, too many new ideas at once.
Right. Your brain's main job is to connect new information to stuff you already know, your existing schemas.
But if you don't have a schema for it,
Then your brain has to work overtime. If you're at a highly technical lecture and they're throwing around terms you've never heard, your brain spends all its energy just trying to figure out what the words mean.
and you lose the overall flow of the presentation.
You fall behind immediately. You're stuck on defining quantum entanglement. While the speaker has moved on 3 topics later, you've hit a mental roadblock, even though the sound itself was perfectly clear.
So beyond these temporary overload states, there are also more persistent brain wiring issues, right? Auditory processing deficits?
Yes. And one of the most fundamental skills here is auditory figure ground, the filtering mechanism.
Separating the voice from the noise.
And when this skill is weak, your brain gives equal weight to every sound. It can't prioritize.
So in a busy airport, the PA announcement, the rolling suitcases, the person talking to you, it all just hits you at once.
Like a wall of noise.
Yeah.
It's incredibly overwhelming and makes it almost impossible to focus on a single voice. The sound you want to hear is just constantly being drowned out by everything else.
And there's another one, auditory closure.
This is a fascinating one. It's your brain's ability to fill in the blanks when part of a word is missing.
Like on a crackly phone call.
A perfect example. If someone says, "I'll meet you at the Lime Dossary," your brain instantly uses context to fill in the missing brie and hear library. It's predictive.
But if you have weak auditory closure,
That missing sound is a full stop. Your brain hears liary and just gets stuck. It can't make the leap. So you have to stop the conversation and ask them to repeat the word, which breaks the flow and adds to your cognitive load.
wow. Okay, and then there are the content issues themselves, linguistic and contextual factors.
Even with perfect hearing and perfect processing, the meaning can still be lost. The first is simply unfamiliar vocabulary, a lack of schema.
So even if I hear the word glue-on field perfectly,
If you're a baker with no physics background, that term is just a sequence of sounds. It's acoustically clear, but functionally meaningless. It doesn't connect to anything in your brain.
and the other big one is a lack of context.
This is huge, because context is what allows your brain to predict what's coming next. Fluent listening is all about prediction.
So if you walk into a meeting halfway through and you hear someone say, and so we have to pivot immediately,
You heard every word perfectly, but you have no idea what we refers to, what the pivot is about, or why it's happening. Without the context, your brain can't predict, so it has to process every single word in isolation.
which is incredibly slow and inefficient.
Dramatically so. You're constantly playing catch-up, and you'll almost certainly misunderstand the core message.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, all these little missed words, they add up. This isn't just a minor annoyance.
Not at all. It has profound cascading effects on your relationships, your career, and even your safety.
Let's start with personal relationships. The constant need for repetition must create a lot of strain.
It really does. The listener feels, well, embarrassed or frustrated. The speaker starts to feel like they're not being heard or that you're not paying attention. It creates this subtle friction that can erode trust over time.
And it leads to actual misunderstandings. Mishearing around 7 as by 7 can cause real problems.
Or 4:30 as 5:30. A small auditory slip can have big consequences. And over time, people might start to think you're aloof or just not interested.
When really you're just struggling to process everything.
Exactly. It's a misunderstanding of the root cause, and that can really damage social dynamics.
And in professional life, the costs are even more direct, right?
They're tangible. Missed instructions lead to errors. Errors lead to rework. Studies show this costs companies millions. Think about missing one critical detail in a software update or a client brief.
And it kills productivity. All the time spent saying, what was that? And re-explaining things.
It breaks everyone's focus. And crucially, it can affect your career. If you're in a fast-paced brainstorming session and you can't keep up, you might be perceived as less engaged or less reliable.
Even if you're the smartest person in the room.
It doesn't matter. Perception becomes reality. It can hold you back.
And in the most serious cases, it can be a safety issue.
This is where it gets life or death. Imagine a distorted PA system announcement during an emergency, confusing evacuate to the south exit with north exit.
Or a warning shouted over loud machinery on a factory floor.
Right. Shut down the main line versus shut down the feeder line. When you combine all these factors, noise, stress, distortion, a simple listening failure can lead to a disaster.
So this raises the most important question. If these problems are so widespread, what can you actually do about it? How do you move from just passively hearing to actively listening?
The solution is all about taking proactive control. You have more power here than you think. Let's start with the easiest fixes, environmental adjustments.
Controlling your surroundings.
Step 1, minimize background noise. Be ruthless about it.
Yeah.
If you're having an important conversation at home, turn off the TV, turn off the fan. In an office, use noise-canceling headphones.
What about in social settings, like a restaurant?
Get strategic with your seating. Choose a booth or a table in a corner, away from the kitchen or the speakers. Sit with a wall behind you. That minimizes sound bouncing around you. And most importantly, move closer to the speaker.
Proximity is your friend.
It's your best friend. It's the easiest way to improve that signal-to-noise ratio we talked about.
And what about echo? How do you fight reverberation?
You improve the acoustics by adding soft things to a room. Rugs on the floor, curtains on the windows, even just a bookshelf full of books. These things absorb sound instead of letting it bounce around. It makes speech so much crisper.
And you mentioned line of sight, maintaining eye contact.
It's not just about being polite. Your brain unconsciously uses lip reading and other visual cues to fill in the gaps when it misses a sound. If you can see the speaker's face, you're giving your brain a whole other stream of data to work with.
Okay, so you can control your space. But what about influencing the speaker?
You can gently coach them. Advocate for clear and moderate speech. Just say, hey, could you slow down just a little? It would really help me catch everything. People are usually happy to oblige.
And encourage pauses.
Yes. Strategic pauses are a gift to the listener's working memory. When someone is giving complex instructions, those little breaks between points give your brain time to catch up and file the information away properly.
And if you do miss something, what's the best way to ask for clarification?
Ask them to rephrase it, not just repeat it. If you just say, "What?" and they repeat the same jumbled phrase, it might not help. But if they say it again using different words, it gives your brain a fresh chance to decode the meaning.
That's a great tip. And finally, encourage them to get your attention before they start talking.
Absolutely. No more shouting instructions from the other room. Ask them to come over, make eye contact, say your name, and wait for you to signal that you're ready to listen.
Okay, so the most powerful changes are the ones we make ourselves. Let's talk about listener strategies. Active engagement.
This is where you transform listening from something that happens to you into something you do. It starts with absolute focus.
Put the phone away.
Put it in another room. Seriously, make a conscious decision. For the next 10 minutes, I am dedicating 100% of my mental energy to this conversation. It makes a world of difference.
And then you have to be proactive in the conversation.
Yes, using clarification techniques. The single best one is to paraphrase what you heard. Say something like, "Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying we need to do X, Y, and Z."
It forces you to process the information and confirms you got it right.
Instantly. It converts passive hearing into active, confirmed knowledge.
What about for really complex topics? How do you boost your brain's performance?
You use cognitive enhancement tools. Take notes, just keywords, not full sentences. And use pre-briefing.
Meaning, do your homework.
Exactly. If you're going into a technical meeting, read the agenda. Look up any terms you don't know beforehand. You're building that mental schema in advance so your brain isn't scrambling during the meeting.
And what about auditory training? Can you actually exercise these brain skills?
You can. There are apps and professional therapies designed to strengthen skills like discrimination and figure ground. They're like a workout for the listening parts of your brain.
And of course, the foundation for all of this is rest.
A tired brain is a poor listener. It's that simple. Prioritize sleep. Manage your stress. An anxious, exhausted brain just doesn't have the resources for high-level listening.
Let's talk about technology. There are tools that can help with this, right?
For sure. If there's any underlying hearing loss, of course, hearing aids are transformative. But even for people with perfect hearing, there are assistive listening devices, or ALDs.
Like an FM system.
FM systems are fantastic. The speaker wears a tiny microphone, and it transmits their voice wirelessly directly to a receiver you're wearing.
So it completely bypasses all the background noise and distance.
It delivers a perfect, clean signal straight to your ears. It's an incredible tool for lectures, meetings, or any noisy environment.
And we should use visual tools too, captioning.
Always. Turn on live captions in virtual meetings. Use transcription apps to review important calls. It gives your brain that visual backup and takes the pressure off your working memory.
And finally, what if you try all this stuff and you're still really struggling?
Then you have to look for underlying issues. Start with a hearing checkup. Go to an audiologist and just rule out any physical hearing loss. Even a mild loss can have a big impact.
And if the hearing test comes back normal,
then you seek a professional assessment from an audiologist who specializes in CAPD. They can do specific tests to see how your brain is handling sound. And if they do find a processing deficit, they can recommend targeted training.
So it's about a holistic approach. Manage the environment, manage yourself, and if needed, get professional help.
That's the whole picture. It's all interconnected.
We have covered a huge amount of ground today, from the tiny hair cells in the ear all the way up to the cognitive load in your brain. But I think the core message is really powerful.
It is.
You are not doomed to miss words. That frustration you feel isn't a sign of failure. It's just a signal that your brain is facing a manageable overload.
So what does this all mean? It means you have a toolkit now. You can control your environment, you can coach your speakers, and you can build your own active listening skills.
This isn't just about catching every single sound.
No, it's about achieving a deeper level of understanding. It's about building stronger relationships and really just having a richer engagement with the world around you.
So next time you're in that noisy room, remember that 6 decibel rule. If you're getting complex instructions, think about your working memory. Start using these strategies today, and I think you'll be amazed at the transformation. If you found this deep dive useful, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. We'll see you next time for the next deep dive.